People, Tim Walz get confronted with his immigration license law in Congress. That happened 2 days ago, so let's go ahead and get in the video, shall we? Alright.
It's a start fault. Seriously.
One of your primary responsibilities, keep your citizens safe, right? I think we could probably agree on that. We might not agree on much, but we could probably agree on that. And I heard you talk earlier about working with federal partners. There's a lot been discussed here about fraud of various kinds, but I want to talk about something that seems to me, quite honestly, a dereliction of duty, or certainly a huge lapse in judgment. And you were governor in October of 2023, right? Just want to make sure we're on the same page here. And you signed the Minnesota Driver's Licenses for All Act. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's correct, right? So, now, look, I'm not going to hold you to knowing every single thing in these laws. There's a lot of
to a certain extent
paragraphs and wording and so on and so forth. But under your law that you signed, it prohibits the disclosure of information contained in the license or identification card applications for enforcing Title VIII of the United States Code. Just to make sure, are you familiar with what Title VIII deals with?
I'm not specifically.
Okay, so it deals with immigration, nationality, and aliens. Particularly, the law that you signed eliminates the requirement for Social Security numbers or proof of lawful presence. And furthermore, it's a violation under Section 14.4 of your code for anybody to research that. As a matter of fact, immigration status is classified as private under Section 13.18. So literally,
private.
The federal government, your partner, as you said, we work with our federal partners, can't use that driver's license information regarding people that are here illegally. Now,
I don't understand the connection between the driver's license and the immigration piece, I guess.
Well, they can't.
He just told you.
Well, let me make the connection for you. According to the Secretary of Transportation.
Guys, how did he make it into governor? Like, how did he get to this point here? I mean, I get it, he was elected, right? But how did he get to that point if he has no ability to critically think on what is happening here? The connection is not even that hard.
1/3 of Minnesota's non-domiciled commercial driver's licenses were issued illegally. Do you have a video ready to play for me? Can you play it now? This is what happens, Mr. Governor. This is what happens when you issue driver's licenses to people illegally.
He is on the northbound lanes of 61, going the wrong way. You can see I'm going southbound on 61. He's in the northbound lanes on Highway 61.
I'm crossing over there, and thank God, I don't know how much that thing weighs, 60, 80,000 pounds, 60 miles an hour.
18-wheeler.
You can cut the video. He was licensed in your state under a law that you signed that precludes federal officials, your federal partners as you call them, from determining whether they're here illegally. That guy that was driving that truck couldn't pass the test. He didn't pass the test out on the road. There's another video, I'm not going to play it, but there's another video of a guy here illegally turning a truck like that around in the middle of a highway where people lost their lives because they were decapitated when they went underneath it. That's what happened. So my question for you is, this should be easy. Yep. What are you going to do to rectify the law that you signed that allows people here illegally to get a CDL? That tape was in Missouri, not in your state. Look, if you don't want to protect the people in your state, I guess that's your business and the business of your voters. But that driver was driving in Missouri. And if he'd have hit a bunch of people, quite honestly, to me, you could have been held liable.
Yeah. Well, Congressman, first of all, Minnesota ranks in the top 3 safest states by highway data from their own department.
Highway data?
The data from the Department of Transportation for highway safety. We have the third. We want everybody on our roads to be licensed.
So are you saying based on that you're okay?
I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with you or I speeding. I'm not okay with DUI.
But you signed this law that allows for that. You signed it. And you're going to do nothing about it?
I can't speak to the specific on the CDL. What I can tell you is...
I referenced your law. It says House of Representatives, State of Minnesota. And I know There's a lot of words here,
case.
but
I just know our roads are safer.
Exactly the sections.
Okay, hold on. I'm glad that your roads are specifically safe here. Understand this here. It generally takes like one bad apple, let's say this year. I'm going to use that idiom here, to spoil the entire bunch. I get it. Your roads are safe. Congratulations. But we definitely need to start speaking about occasionally the exceptions, not dwelling within the exceptions, because in fact the majority rules. That's the actual talking point. But if you're going to bring up the exception, and the exceptions are like that, where we are now risking American lives for the sake of making people feel better, appease them within their illegality, guys, listen, something tells me that the person that drove on the wrong side of the road most likely drives on that side of the road in their home country. Nothing's wrong with that specifically. I have no problem with the idea of immigration. I'd say just do it legally. We should not be giving free passes for the most part to people who are not living within the bounds of our law.
Driver safety and immigration are two separate things. Anybody, had that been a citizen or not, it's still tragic, it's wrong, we shouldn't do it. What I'm telling you is in Minnesota, we have the third safest roads in the country.
So you're good. So you're good with this practice.
I'm not good with that.
Well, what are you good with? Because that's what's happening under your law.
Well, I can't speak specific on if it's an outlier. We give licenses to people who then eventually people get DUIs after we issue
that
them.
Happened last month. This is March. That happened a week and a half ago.
Yeah, I don't know.
Are you familiar?
That's wrong. And look,
but you're not going to do anything.
Sure, we're going to do.
What are you going to do?
Traffic laws.
What are we going to do?
Was this person arrested?
I sure hope so.
Well, that's good.
And but he was licensed in your state under your law that you signed about a year and a half ago.
Every day we give licenses and people speed. So we ticket them and try and stop that. What I'm telling you is I don't understand the connection between...
He's here illegally, he can't read, and he got a license under your provisions, and he's driving all across the country, imperiling everybody else. That's the connection.
I can't speak.
Thank you.
The data shows Minnesota is one of the safest driving states in the country.
So there's a weird ideology in the United States of America. Understand this here, and it happens on both sides here. What we're encountering right now is purely one of those issues here, right? So the left, when they speak generally, they look for the outliers, like random niche subgroups that are way less than 10%, and then push them to the forefront and make it seem like the entirety of the world is this way. And then on the right, they kind of do the same thing, but generally coming from the same overall angles, right? So on the right, it's going to be, yes, look at all of this safety here, right? But then these 5 to 10 incidents, even though these 5 to 10 incidents are absolutely insane, right? We're going to dwell on those and make it seem like that's the overall overwhelming story. Then on the left, it has a lot to do with gender stuff. You can tell that we're Americans because we do the same thing on both sides of the table here. This is still a big deal, kind of no matter what here. Understand this here. It's happening. It probably shouldn't happen. You are kind of leaving a door open for it to happen. That's what this guy here is kind of pointing out. You're leaving the door open for this to happen, and we don't want it to happen. And I always call out the exceptions when there are exceptions here. It's like the same argument that comes from the right specifically, saying all illegal immigrants are going to commit a secondary or tertiary offense, be scared of the illegal immigrant type of thing. That's another talking point that happens, right? When in actuality, it's less than 10% of the people that broke into our country. Yes, the first primary offense is wild. It becomes a technicality until they skip court, if that makes any sense here, right? So once they skip court, they have to leave. They have to leave. Because obviously once we find out that their asylum claim was just purely rooted in economic migrancy and a whole bunch of nonsense, they have to go. Or 80 to 90% of the people who broke into our country, they have to leave. Sorry. Bye. Leave immediately. Okay? I feel nothing for about that. Nothing. You're here illegally. Your asylum claim is absolutely fraudulent. Bye. Go. No. All right? But the other 10 to 20%, different conversation. Most likely they're going to actually pass through the asylum checks because they actually are experiencing something in their country, and we can help them. Do your thing. No problem with the idea of asylum. I have a problem with the idea of how asylum is basically being bastardized, let's say, by a bunch of people from other places. I get it. Their economies have fallen. They're running toward the United States of America to get the U.S. dollar. I understand all of this thing here, but I'm sorry, that doesn't qualify for asylum. You have to go, right? But yeah, so the people generally become illegal immediately. Either they are gotaways or they got the order to basically leave and they've decided to ignore it. These are the two ways you're illegal in this country by default here. That's it, you're illegal. It's time for you to go, bro. But other than that, I don't really understand Tampon Tim's point here, right? Your goal is to what? Make it so it's nearly impossible to figure out if the person that is driving in the United States of America is legal. So what does it mean? Someone breaks into our country, they're got away, they go to Minnesota, they get